Hey guys, episode 2 here with a quick Razz. Today's pretty cool. I've got one of my best mates, Shane Cooker, on. His story is unbelievable, and if this doesn't inspire you, I don't know what will. We touch on a lot of things, everything he's done through his life, what he's overcome, some of the challenges that he's had. One of the best dudes you'll ever meet. I hope you enjoy this interview and a quick Razz. How did you find art, mate?
I think I've been around art my whole life. Just growing up, my mum always was doing something creative. She was always into doing pottery or sewing, like all different stuff. So kind of growing up around my mum, she was always doing something. I remember mum coming to my primary school when I was quite young, teaching the kids about Aboriginal art and stuff like that. And just been around art kind of like my whole life.
And you've done everything, like graffiti, you've done Indigenous art, you've done tattooing, everything. How did you go from one to the other?
It's pretty crazy how I've kind of gone into different areas of art my whole life. I think that's probably one thing about me that most people know is that I don't really limit my art to one specific medium. Like I think sometimes you get further by doing that in some ways, but for me I've always just felt this urge to just try different things. And obviously my mum being very creative young, growing up around her, she was a massive influence on me. And then getting into primary school, I had a few friends who their older brothers were into graffiti, so just seeing graffiti around around my neighbourhood and having our back fence graphed up and stuff like that was pretty common. And then so just being around graffiti, I always had an interest in that. And then I had an incident where I got burnt when I was quite young. We'll probably talk about it a bit more later, but got burnt when I was young, spent quite a bit of time in hospital. And then my mum just showed me all these books of Aboriginal art and like rock art. And as soon as I seen that, I was like, man, this is like the original graffiti, like writing on walls, but like rock art walls and caves, So that just really was like spun me out that we had that history and that my family had connections to that. So going from kind of introduced into art by my mum, and then learning about graph, and then spending a lot of time in hospital learning around my family history. And then upon getting out of hospital, going into school, met a lot of dudes that graphed. Always interested in tattooing. My dad's pretty heavily tattooed, and most of my family have got quite a lot of tattoos. It was just like a natural progression to just kind of jump between each thing. And obviously each element of my practice is probably like a deep reason why I do that kind of medium within my arts practice as well. So Aboriginal art because my family, graffiti, just grew up around it. And then tattooing is obviously, my dad being heavily tattooed, but then also I got tattooed quite early when I was younger to cover some of the scars from when I was burnt. So, yeah.
Can we talk about what happened there?
Yeah, for sure. I was pretty young. I talk about it quite a bit. I like to think I lived a pretty normal life growing up. Played soccer at a local club around the corner. My dad got me into sports quite early. Always loved boxing. My grandfather's right into boxing. Lived a pretty normal childhood, I would say. And then, it was in an incident one day where I just happened to be down a park with these kids from my school. Got in an argument with one of the kids because me and his brother had like an argument at school like the week before or something. I was like 12 years old at the time, so pretty young. I was down a park. These kids were like lighting ants on fire, and I just happened to be there with another friend from school as well. And then got in an argument with this kid. He poured petrol on the floor. Threw a match, it like lit the ground on fire. And then, me and him started arguing. I was pretty much talking shit to him. He was talking shit back to me, as kids do, I guess. Not thinking that it would have kind of gone to the extent it did, but then he poured the bottle of petrol onto the floor. The flame caught fire onto the bottle. He shook it a few times, and then I just remember him throwing it and me putting my hands up because I just seen it coming towards me. And then, pretty much, I think it hit my hands, the bottle tipped upside down and just lit me on fire. And then I was wearing like a silk Wu-Tang t-shirt. Even when I talk about it now, I can feel my heart rate like raise. It's like really yeah, it's one of those things, It's like you get over things, but I think your body kind of stores it. And I'm quite happy to talk about it because I do a lot of this kind of, I share a lot about myself when I do youth work and community work, so that's what I'm really passionate about as well. But I think, it was a pretty heavy incident to be involved in from such a young age. And it's obviously, it was like kind of been, at the time it wasn't very nice, but I think a lot of great things have come out of it. So I wouldn't change it at all.
And you've been to the burns units to talk to young kids about what happened and how you recovered, right?
Yeah, so like when I first got out of hospital, I was in hospital for about 9 months and had over 10 operations, I reckon, like 3rd-degree burn, are pretty serious. So they kind of like monitor you so you don't get any infections. And because mine was like quite close to my heart, it burnt me quite deep on my chest. So they wanted to monitor that for quite some time. And then when I got out, there was a guy called Julian Burton, who's...
That was a teacher from my school.
Was it? Was he a footy player?
Yeah, he was our PE teacher.
Yeah, so he was a burns victim as well in the Bali bombings.
Yep.
And he used to own this foundation which used to go around and do like burns prevention, so like talking to kids about fire safety, and they used to like merge in with like with the Adelaide firefighters, and they used to put on like gala dinners and do a whole bunch of stuff to raise money around burns prevention. So I think from a young age I kind of got out of hospital, and without even knowing it, I was kind of an ambassador for that foundation. So they used to get me to go talk at schools and talk about what happened to me, and just like a whole lot of that kind of stuff, And then since then as well, I've gone back to the hospital. I try to make it an effort to get back there as much as I can to the Women's and Children's. They've got like a program there called Arts and Health. So they try to promote the benefits of art within a hospital and how it can, support you with your time there. Like getting into a flow state when you're painting, time seems to pass quite fast. So a lot of people that are into art kind of get that, I guess, where they can start creating and time passes by without even knowing. And I'm a huge believer in it myself. And to go back to the hospital and see some kids, not necessarily like Aboriginal, but just all kids that are in there going through something pretty heavy from a young age is really like, close to my heart, because I was that kid once, So to go back on the same ward where I spent all that time and to see the kids, excited to see me, it's like, wow, it's just a full kind of circle moment. So I always try to go back and do stuff when I can. I've raised a bit of money from selling basketball shoes for the Adelaide 36ers and stuff to raise money to go back to that foundation as well. So anytime I get an opportunity to be involved in that stuff, I love to do that,
One thing about you always do so much for community, and I know I've told the story a few times and it always makes me laugh, is you're one of the only guys when we've been out for a couple of beers that's actually said you're going to come and train and turned up the next week. And that was at our friend's birthday, and then that went on to you coming down to the gym, and then you coming up with the idea for First Nations Jiu-Jitsu. And we did the first one, I think, was 10 weeks, and that was, you did the artwork for the rashi, and I've worn that rashi all around the world, worn it in my brother's instructional, and it's the one that more people ask me about when and where to get it. And I learn a lot about it because, I see an art piece and, you don't really know the story to it, but that piece of art that you did for that rash guard, that was just for First Nations Jiu-Jitsu, that program. And, that's always been close to my heart, doing that program, because, you asked me to coach it, and we had Jack Buckskin involved as well. And that was so special because we've got people at the gym still to this day, and talking to other guys in the community and about them sort of saying they weren't aware that many Indigenous people were training, and they kind of felt like they might be the only one coming up into the gym to try. That was so special, man. So
it was pretty wild that we done that, eh?
It was a good time. A lot of banter on the mats, and
it was the best, man. I think it was one of those things, like, that's probably me kind of going through what I've gone through, and just kind of my character having a pretty, I suppose, impulsive and pretty like addictive personality at times with things. It's like sometimes if I just say I'm going to do something, I just put my mind to it, and like it's almost like sometimes it can go against go against me in some ways, but I feel like sometimes it's like if I have this idea, it's like I'm just going to go for it, and like sometimes I fail and sometimes it works out, and that was just one of those ones where I just had this thing in my mind that I wanted to do, and just happened to be drinking at the same place you were at the same time, and become good friends. Like we obviously knew of each other prior to that, but to spend spend a few hours just having a laugh and connecting in person, which is really important. And then yeah, just you and give me the invite to come down and drive from the other side of the city all the way down to M16 is pretty wild, because I don't know,
bit of a trek.
Yeah, it's like one of those things when people go, oh, that's too far or it's too much of an effort. I just kind of laugh, because I'm a huge believer in if you want to do something, like if you want to do something, then do it. Like sometimes I need to take my own advice with that stuff too, but if you want to do something, you make the effort for it, and I'm a big believer in that. And I think I was just really lucky to kind of stumble across yous, and and especially like Miles at the gym being so welcoming to have us use the space, and same like Sean D'Ambrosio and Farouk at Matrix and all the other people that have supported it. It's just massive, because like I think I started jiu-jitsu like I reckon probably like 8 years before I'd met yous, but kind of on and off. I'd do it for 6 months, then I'd go back and play soccer. Had a few boxing fights, done a whole bunch of different stuff, and then just would always go back to jiu-jitsu. And every time I'd go back, I'm like, man, why did I stop? I should just keep doing this. And then met a few good friends at my first club I was at, and a few like lifelong friends, because that's what it's like with jiu-jitsu. Sometimes you move away, but you still connect with the people you connect with. And then to have the support from everyone, support, especially me, like to just kind of like, I think it's nice when you've got an idea to have people around you that really give you the opportunity to see where it can go, because it's quite easy for people to be dismissive of myself as like a white belt, to say, hey, I think this would be a great thing to do, but I just believed in it because I know the impact jiu-jitsu had for me. And especially being burnt around my neck, like I was very self-conscious, like I was a very angry person when I was younger about being burnt, and as soon as someone would like touch my neck, I would like freak right out, like I would get real, I don't know, I just felt very vulnerable around that. And then when you go to something like jiu-jitsu and someone's got their legs wrapped around your neck and choking the crap out of you, it's like pretty confronting for some people.
Yeah, giving you a kiss on the forehead.
that's some bullshit. And then but it's just one of those things. I think just to be around people that support is a massive thing, and jiu-jitsu's done a lot for me. So I think it was really cool to be able to put the word out to offer other people to come try it. And I think whether people continue to progress with jiu-jitsu, or if they come out and try for a little while, it's one of those things that they won't remember that experience, and hopefully it's a good one for them, and hopefully at a later time in their life they have the confidence to go step into another gym that suits them best. And I'm just thankful with you guys at M16, you just kind of let me travel around a bit and train where I feel comfortable to train, and I think that's massive for people, especially Aboriginal people who sometimes feel like with the minority in a minority group sometimes. And jiu-jitsu is one of those things, like I went to jiu-jitsu, never really seen anyone else that was Aboriginal doing it. And then to meet, like Penrose and Aaron Can and just, all the other guys that were doing it, just like I said, like you just said before, I didn't realise that there was that many black fellas that were interested in doing it. And Warner as well, he's obviously been around a lot longer than me. But yeah, I thought it was just really great that we got to do that, and regardless if it continues to happen or not, at least there's something there that people can touch back on and share with other people, I guess.
People see it, and the ball. You might have started the ball rolling with it, but it is one of the most special things that I've done. I hold that up there as far as in the sport of jiu-jitsu, with me getting my black belt. So
that's massive, bro. That's
I
huge.
always appreciate that for everything that I learned from you guys. Even some of the banter the boys used to give me, all the shit. But that was like I said, one of the most special things I've been a part of in jiu-jitsu. You mentioned boxing. I know you've done boxing. You've done everything. You're a man that wears many hats. I can't think of anything worse than doing a short run, let alone marathons. And I know you've done, was it the New York City Marathon?
Yeah, done New York.
And I know, to tie back in with the art, you also painted over there as well. And I think that's when I first connected with you on the socials, is I saw you over there painting. And I remember you put up a post saying, or maybe a post like along the lines of how special it was for you to be painting over there. How did you get into marathon running?
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, like I never liked specifically running. I liked just playing sports. I always played soccer, footy, basketball. Even at boxing, we had to do sprints, and sprints was alright because once you'd done 10, you were done. Like that was it. You'd like that's kind of as far as I would run at boxing. But I hated it, and everyone around me knew that I hated it. Like I'd very rarely do pre-season with soccer. Like I'd try to rock up a few weeks before we would start and stuff like that. And yeah, it was just one of those things where I was just in a time in my life where I just seen this opportunity to try out for this running program because I seen another girl, a really good friend of mine called Ruth Wallace. She played for I believe it was like one of the first Adelaide Crows women's teams, and she was an amazing footballer, and she's an amazing musician as well. Like she's an incredible woman. And I seen her wearing this like yellow singlet with her name on it. And because I've done like Guernseys for like a lot of sports teams and stuff like that, generally when I do those designs, I'll get one. And I seen that she had this Aboriginal yellow singlet with her name, and I was like, "Where'd you get that? I want to get one of them." And then she kind of said to me, or something along the lines of, "You can't just buy these, brother. You got to earn it." And at the time, I was thinking like, "Oh bullshit, I'll get one of them." Like that's what I was just thinking. I was like, I'll get one of them easy kind of thing in my mind. And then when she started explaining to me like how you got it, I was like, "Oh shit, you got to like run to do this thing." Like, "Oh, I don't know about that." And then that was like a few years prior to me running it, and then the year later, another friend of mine called Ricky got selected, and then I seen her post photos of her finishing the New York Marathon, and just from graffiti, obviously, and New York's quite iconic with graffiti, and to see that, to see an Aboriginal person running a marathon in New York where graffiti was from, I was like, that's like incredible. I would love to do that, and seeing there was tryouts, and went out and tried out, and just lucky on my first go I got in, because I know that in my group there was another fella that had tried out like 8 times, and you've only got a window between like 18 to 30 to get into the squad, and some people try out in their last year and don't get in. So to get in the program is pretty amazing. There's like over 100 and I think there's over 150 graduates now of the program. It's been going for 15 years this year. I've actually helped out with a few of the medal designs with them as well. But the founder of that program from the Indigenous Marathon Foundation is Rob Di Costella. And I didn't even know who this fella was when I first tried out. I just remember telling my dad, "Oh, I'm going to this tryout today. I'm doing this run, and there's this fella called Rob Di Costella, and he does this running program." My dad's like, "Rob Di Costella, do you even know who that is?" And I was like, "I have no idea." And it was the fella. This is how I remember him, is off the Swiss multivitamin ads.
Oh, classic.
Like, so that's how I remember seeing his face. But when I seen him, I was like, remembered him being off the ad, and then like learning about him. Like he was like one of the most iconic Australian runners ever. Like he's like Olympic Hall of Fame, I believe. Like he held the world record for marathon running. So like, you put it into context, back in his day when he ran marathons, he was running like 2 hours and 6 minutes, and my fastest marathon's like 3 hours and 33 minutes. So like,
holy shit,
he was flying. Even today, like maybe 30 years later or 20 years later, after he held the world record, the record's only like 5 or 6 minutes faster from when he was running it back then. So it's crazy to know a guy like that, like at the level of achievement that he's reached, and to have him as like a mentor, and we call him like an uncle, like he's done so much for me, and yeah, to be a part of that program. I never thought I'd like running, but I think when I am running, my life seems to be a little bit easier. So that's why I try to make it part of my like weekly routine to be running. And I like the idea of not being so defeated after one round into open mat, which is nice. Yeah. So yeah, pretty crazy. And then went there so got selected, went through the program, ran the New York Marathon in 2019, and that just so happened to be the same year that Aboriginal people had a big thing going on in the country around the Aboriginal flag and the rights for the flag. And at that time, Aboriginal people pretty much were told that we couldn't use the flag without permission of a certain organisation who purchased the rights to it. So going to New York at that time, obviously I wanted to paint, because that's, for me that was almost just as big as doing the New York Marathon, after all those years of like loving graffiti and art. And so when I done a piece over in the South Bronx behind the Andrew Freeman, it's like a community centre, I painted this wall out there, and I done this like piece with my name and stuff, and I just remember writing like above it, just come to me to write like free the flag. And then I think just getting the opportunity to paint New York at that same time was just like, for me, that's probably one of my highlights in my probably artist journey. I would say, I wouldn't say career, because it's not really a career doing that stuff, but I think for me as being an artist, it was one of those things I'll look back on many years later and be like, so glad I got to do that. And yeah, it's just wild. I never thought as a young fellow I'd be able to travel. You know, I never travelled out of South Australia until I was like, maybe like, I don't know, like I reckon I was 18, maybe like early 20s. So yeah, not getting to travel a whole lot when I was younger because my mum's health and my health was a big thing. So yeah, there's a lot more to it. I've travelled a fair bit more around the place now, but yeah.
You say, you know, you started sort of like running with the boxing and that. One thing I've always noticed with you is all the sports you have been involved in, you've always tied art in with it, and you know, you've done stuff with Anthony Mundine, with the boxing. You've been involved with boxing gyms, and I see you guys, you know, you support up and coming boxers. How did the Anthony Mundine situation happen?
Yeah, that was a crazy one as well, because it's just one of those moments where I had this idea in my head and I just kind of ran with it. And the idea was I got my first job working at a high school in the northern suburbs, and it was actually Jack's mum, Jack, my older brother. His mother was working at the school, and I just got this opportunity to work there. And I reckon about 2 weeks into working at that school, I got I got arrested for painting in one of the freight yards, and straight out the cells, walked straight to the school, and then just started chatting to them, saying, hey, look, I can't come into work today because I got myself in trouble. And they knew that I was, you know, doing a lot of the right things, but it was just a decision I made that kind of went wrong, and still don't regret it. But they gave me an opportunity to come back to the school and work even after that. So I had a lot of people around me that supported me and probably believed that I had a lot more potential to give. And so to work at the school, we had this room there, and we call it the Nunga Room. That's where all the Aboriginal kids can come, and even like non-Aboriginal kids can come in there too, but it's just a place where they can come and connect and get a bit more support from the teachers, and they do like cultural activities in there, and do a whole bunch of different stuff. But in this room, there was a lot of like footy players, and there was just like footy, and there was obviously Aboriginal art in there. But for me, I always grew up loving boxing, like more than always into martial arts or boxing or something. And because footy, I kind of played it a little bit, but just for me, it wasn't something that I really aspired to do. And I just had this idea saying, I want to get some like posters of like other sports people in here, like Mundine and Kathy Freeman and a few other people. And I had this idea in my head to why don't I just ring up Mundine's gym and see if they've got some old posters. And I rang up the gym, and there was one fella there called Alex Tui, who I believe was like Mark Hunt's kickboxing trainer. I found this out later on, but that was pretty spin out to like be chatting to him. I didn't realise who he was at the time. And then, yeah, he's like, I'll get him to give you a call back. And then about an hour later, I got another phone call from some fella named Tony, and I was like chatting to him for a while. Didn't realise who it was. It was Tony Mundine, his dad. So I was like, didn't realise who that was at the time. And then just wanted to know who I was, where I was from, what I wanted. And I just said to him, I'm a black fella from South Australia. My family's originally from Queensland. I'm a youth worker. I just want some posters for these school kids so they can see, you know, some other people that idolise besides football players. And they're like, we'll get someone to give you a call back. And then another hour after that, one of Anthony Mundine's manager at the time called me and said, we're actually filming some content for Mundine versus Daniel Gill. And would love to come to the school and come meet all the kids. And I was like, and in my mind I was like, that's amazing. And then just something popped in my head to say, yeah, we can do it, but only if I can come over there. So like I just said to him, yeah, you can come to the school if you want, but like I want to come over there and see the gym. And then he's like, yep, you let us know when you want to come and we'll fly you over. So I hung up the phone, and the school at first was a bit like, oh, we're not sure if we can do this, we might need security, all this stuff. And then I just said to one of the workers, I was like, if they say no, I'm just going to tell him to come anyway. Because I was like, this just needs to happen kind of thing. And luckily the school ended up jumping on board. But the week before they came over to do some filming and to chat with all the young people, I flew over there and went to the gym with one of the other youth workers I was working with at the time. And got to spend the day cruising around, seeing the gym, went to the house, went to Tony's house, went to Anthony's house, and become like really, really good friends with him. And he's just someone I idolised, just treated me with so much respect. And I think he said to me, he's like, we're brothers, you know, you don't we're good friends. I'll give you my number, and you know, you don't have to call me. You don't call me and ask me for everything. But if you ever need anything, like I'm always there for you. And since then, we've done heaps of different stuff. He gave me like 100 tickets to give out for the Danny Green fight.
Yep.
And he didn't realise the second Danny Green fight here in Adelaide, but he didn't realise for, you know, as a young person who's a youth worker, to be able to go out to all the schools in South Australia and offer free tickets to the community, like he made me look really good by doing that. And for him, it might have just been a few tickets, but for me, it really gave me a lot of opportunity within a lot of other areas in community to go work. And then obviously my favourite thing I've done with like Chock is like to paint his painted design that he used for his fight kit in one of his like last fights, and it didn't go his way, but you know, his career is like, it's like I don't think there's too many people that's done what he's done in Australian sports, and a lot of people don't like him because of, you know, some things he says, but as a fella he's just like, he's a good fella, man. Like he's done a lot for me, and yeah, to this day I still chat to him about my daughter. I messaged him when my daughter was born and he replied straight away, and yeah, I get a bit emotional about it because he's like someone I idolise, but he's become a good friend, and people don't really see that side of him sometimes. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like with the way the media goes, and you know, especially with his bit, they misrepresented what type of bloke he actually is, and I feel like that kind of happens a fair bit with some of these Indigenous athletes. You know, it's like they get treated very differently to maybe how some of the white Australians get treated.
Yeah.
And that goes back to Kathy Freeman. I still remember her running back in the day. I actually only watched a clip of her win that, was it Sydney Olympics?
Yeah.
Thing. And
Olympics. Yeah, that was crazy. I remember that. I think moments like that, like people talk about reconciliation and stuff like that, and we talk about it a lot with you. It's like there's Reconciliation Week and NAIDOC Week. You know, reconciliation is about bringing people together, and NAIDOC Week's about celebrating. But when you got friends like yous at the gym, and you know, moments like that when Kathy Freeman win like that, when she won that thing, that like brings so many people together. I think that's why sport's so powerful, because it just brings people together from all different walks of life. And yeah, it's you know, it's easy to shout at the TV and be supporting people, you know, like that. But I think, yeah, sometimes sport's one of the things that can transcend and change the world around us. And I think it's done that for a lot of people, you know. I think people like Mundine and Kathy Freeman have just been, you know, there's so many others, but definitely them two are probably the more iconic ones that most people would know of. But yeah, it's really special when you get someone like that in a, you know, throughout life, or to represent our people, to come put themselves in those positions. Because you can imagine, like, I've competed a few times in a few different things, but imagine being at that level with that much pressure on you in society would be like, everyone's just waiting for you to, so many people want you to succeed, but there's just as much people wanting you to see you fail, you know. And so like, yeah, like I'm sure a lot of people would respect their accomplishments. How could you not, eh?
Yeah, no, so, for real.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have inspired an entire generation, really, you know, and continue to do so with everything that they've done.
Yeah.
You've done stuff with Tai Tuivasa, your mates with Tyson Pedro. Like, you've got connections everywhere, and you know, I know you've told me some stories about connecting with Ty and Tyson. How did all that come about?
This I don't know if this is a common theme with me, but sometimes I get these like ideas in my head, and probably 90% of the time they're stupid ones about me spending money or this or that, and I'm going to start this new business. But then every now and then I'll get these really like, I don't even know where it comes from. In Aboriginal culture, we say, like, you know, your ancestors are talking to you, or and some other people say like, oh, the universe is talking to me, or God, or whatever it is. But whatever it is, for me, it's like, I just kind of think it's like my old people guiding me or pointing something out to me to look at or pay attention to. And I just come home from, I can't remember, I think I might have been out or something. I come home from something, and I remember my dad saying to me, look at this bloke, he's from, this fella's from Sydney, this Aboriginal fella, he wears the Aboriginal flag when he fights in the UFC. And I was thinking, bullshit, there's no one that fights in the UFC that's Aboriginal. Like, I was like, you're dreaming. Like, had no idea who this fella was. And then I was like, no shit. It was like Tai Tuivasa fighting in the UFC, and his first few fights in the UFC were like insane. Like, just like, you know, putting putting it on people and just crushing them, you know. And I just was like, wow, I was like so, I don't know, I was so excited to see that. And someone that works in youth justice with a lot of young people who make a lot of bad decisions, particularly around with their anger and fighting. It's like, if you're going to fight, do it in a way where you can actually maybe create a better life for yourself, whether it's boxing or, you know, obviously MMA is massive now. And I just was on Instagram and I thought to myself, I'm just going to message this bloke and just say to him that I'm working in youth justice at the moment. There's a lot of young fellas that I've been showing you to them, because I think they need to see people like you. Because I don't call myself a fighter. Like I said, I've had a few boxing fights and I've competed in jiu-jitsu in one competition, but I like to connect people with other people who I think they could benefit from knowing or, you know, seeing. And I messaged him saying that I work in youth justice, and if the opportunity was to come, I'd love to be able to paint something for him paint something with the kids that we can give to him, to show them that if you have an idea and you ask for it, sometimes, you know, the worst people someone can say is no. And he luckily just turned around and said, yep, like, let me know if you paint something, you can send it over. And about 2 weeks later, I messaged him saying, hey, what's your address? And he replied something back to me like, fucking, why the fuck do you want my address or something? I don't know if he forgot or what, but it was a pretty funny reply, what he replied to me. And I just sent him a photo of this UFC glove that I'd bought off like eBay, and I painted it, and I just happened to be with some kids when I was painting it and showing them, and I sent it over to him, and then he like sent me a really nice message back saying thank you so much. And then about a month later, he messaged me back saying, you'll never believe it, I'm actually coming to Adelaide. So then he came to Adelaide and we caught up and hung out one night, and just carrying on with him and hanging out with him and having a great time. And then I just said to him about doing the entrance to the UFC stuff, and it was pretty wild to it's pretty wild. I said, why don't you get someone to walk you out to the ring, you know? And he's like, why don't you do it? And I was like, I said, I'd love to do it, but I suppose we can if you want. And he's like, yeah, we'll try to sort it out then. And then we went home or whatever. And then the next, I reckon it was 2 days later, he messaged me saying, hey, like, here's this fella's details. Like, can you talk to him? Because he wants to do this. He wants to do it. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. So I got my brother Jack and his family. I let them know that this opportunity come up. And I was like, you know, crazy excited about it, because it's unbelievable that this would even come about, to me anyway. But it was really nice to be able to do that with my family from here, because Jack's mum's obviously adopted me into their family, like, and culturally some families do that, and I was lucky enough to do that, and they've done a lot for me. So to be able to like share that experience with them, and Stephen Warrior was there. Like, Stephen Warrior doesn't dance all the time, but if there's something special on, he'll jump in. Yeah. And yeah, just to do that together was like insane, and we talk about it to this day. And there's been many more different experiences. Like, we've been to Nauru and danced over there together, and Jack's been around the world dancing and sharing culture and language. So yeah, it was just unbelievable. And even to look back on that video now, it just kind of seems surreal that we've done that. But it's just come from this idea of like, I should message this guy. And I think everything I do, I try to come from a place of just being like authentic. Like, if there's many times I could message someone for no reason and try to connect with them, but I think one part of me is I'll only really do it if I believe I have something to kind of offer that situation. And if it's not at that time, I'll just wait until there's a time. Like, I don't get too caught up if I miss an opportunity, because I just believe that things come to you when they're meant to as well. And I've just been blessed with so many great opportunities to meet so many different people. And yeah, man, sometimes it's hard to, I look back at it and go, what possibly else could I do after doing all this stuff? But things just keep coming up, and yeah, it's just unreal, man. I feel very lucky to be able to, you know, do art, even though it's a bit of a struggle at times. But yeah, just really blessed, man, to have so many great opportunities and meet so many good people along the way. So hopefully there's many more to come, and hopefully I can just keep producing good art that people like, and try to support my daughter through living off that.
Well, man, we could just keep listing names, really, eh? Paddy Mills, Shaquille O'Neal, Mike Tyson, right?
Not Mike Tyson, but I met Mike Tyson and he signed my tattoo, and I got it tattooed, which was
that's right.
Yeah, that was pretty insane.
I remember the Shaquille O'Neal and the Paddy Mills though. That was pretty bloody cool.
Yeah, it's insane, man. I think I don't know how it happens, but I think I just try to be a good person, and even these days when opportunities come up now, like, I love to do stuff myself, but if there's ever an opportunity to work with other artists as well, like I think it's really good to collaborate, and yeah, it helps me grow my art, you know, working with other people. And I think it's the same with jiu-jitsu. Like, there's so many common themes with jiu-jitsu and art that I found, and it's like if you're just training at the same gym all the time or with the same partners at practice, you kind of get in routines and you get habits from that. And then when you go somewhere else or someone else comes and trains with you, you kind of, I don't know, I think it's really important to train with a variety of different people. And, you know, not everyone's your best mate, and not everyone's going to give you, you know, it's not going to be your favourite round every time. It's just like when you work with someone, it's not going to be your favourite project you ever work on, but you learn from all of it, you know. And as you would know, over many, many years, you just accumulate little skills and bits of knowledge, and hopefully, I think wisdom's like putting that into practice, right? I think that's what they say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
With your, you know, we're talking about culture and everything, and I know how important family is for you, whether that's your parents or your little one. I remember probably in the last couple of years, you've reconnected with your country.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? Because I know how important that is, and some of the people that I talk to, you know, like Amy Graham from the gym, I know when she goes back, she says it just sort of the way she can reconnect and everything like that. For you, what was that like going up there, meeting everybody, getting to see it all?
Yeah, it was crazy because obviously growing up here in Adelaide, it's quite a far, you know, it's not just like 2 hours away where I can just drive back to country. So growing up here in Adelaide, yeah, I suppose there's a lot of people around Australia who are Aboriginal, who some are really lucky and they live a little bit closer to their country, and there's other people who have lost connection from, you know, stolen generation, which is like really, really sad, you know, and I think community try really hard to help them reconnect in other ways, because that's really important too. But for me, yeah, always knowing that my family's from Brisbane, but it was just like, knew my nana was born on a mission called Cherbourg, which is a really famous Aboriginal mission settlement in Queensland, one of the huge ones. So there's a lot of different communities got all bang there back in the day, and a lot of bad things happened there too. And my nana just moved away when she was young and worked, and kind of kept in touch with a few of her siblings, but never kind of went back maybe a few times to Brisbane. But as she got older, just moved away. My mum was born in like Dampier, Western Australia, and then they ended up moving here. So my family's been kind of all over the place, but yeah, always wanting to go back, and knowing that my nana had family there, I got to the age where when I was doing the marathon, I got the opportunity to go back to Brisbane. I said to my nana, I'm going back to Cherbourg. I want to see like where you were born, you know. And when I went there, she's like, if you're going to go, you got to see my sister. Like, it's her half sister. They're born in the same year, but to different mothers. And I went and stayed with like Auntie Ada, or Nana Ada I call her, and got to learn a lot about my nana's both side of her family, because she had stayed there and lived there her whole life. So she kind of knew a lot of the family. So she pointed me in the right direction of who else was my family and where to go, and found out I'm a descendant from two different Aboriginal nations. One's Woolly Woolly, which is more like central eastern Queensland, and then Koa, which is another community which is out near Winton, which is where the song Waltzing Matilda was written about that country, which is a crazy fact that I learned. And then so I went back to Brisbane and Cherbourg a few times, but never actually went out to country. And then I got an opportunity to go out with some archaeologists that I was working with in like, yeah, they were supporting the Woolly Woolly people to document culture and like site site protection. So like, we'll go out to like rock art sites and figure out whether shrub needs to be cleaned or moved away, because if there's a bushfire, it could pretty much devastate everything. So they try to find locations of rock art or scar trees and all these different things. So for me, that was like probably one of my most favourite things I've ever done in my life, is to go back to country and hike out for, you know, like 10-hour days out on country where there's no reception. You could turn around 3 times and you just like wouldn't even know where you are, kind of thing. You had to have like GPSs, and to be on country and do that was like amazing. But the weird thing about that was when I went back to country, we were driving, and I remember saying to one of the elders we were with, like, I said to him, you let me know when we're on country, eh? And he just started laughing. He's like, what do you mean? We've been driving for 2 hours on country. And I was just like, and in my mind I started laughing. I'm like, of course. It's like, because spiritually I've been here like 100 times or 1,000 times, you know, like my spirit has been connected to this place for so long. When I was there, it was like, I felt so comfortable. So like for me, I was kind of expecting me to go back and go, oh my God, I'm on my country, and freak out like that. But for blackfellas, we have this, I know it's like intuition, or there's something in us that we have this, like, I don't know, it's just, there's something in us that's really, you'd ask a lot of blackfellas and they'll say the same thing. It's just, it's hard to explain, but it's like an intuition, it's like a natural instinct we have, and we see things differently in certain ways. And that's one of those ways where when I went back, I'm like, oh, of course I didn't think like that. It's because of, you know, spiritually I've been here many, many times through my generations and family. So, and that's just things I've learned along the way from my family here in Adelaide. I was quite blessed to grow up with a strong community here, the Ghana people here, who have taught me so much. So when I went back to country, it's like I actually had things to offer to them. Like I didn't just go back there and want to take away from these people from my community who've lived there their whole life. It was like I went back there and I wanted to learn, obviously, but I felt like I got a lot of great feedback from them learning about stuff that I'd done here. And since then, like we've done some cultural burns back on country where they got given like a block of land back where they want to do like a nursery and do a whole bunch of stuff back there. So to help like clear the block of land by using, you know, cultural practices such as like back burning and stuff like that was like incredible. And obviously being burnt when I was younger, going back to do something like cultural burns was crazy for me, because it was something I didn't probably realise at the time, but when there's a massive wall of fire in front of you, it brought back a lot of emotions for me. But then since then, it's like, it's actually quite empowering it's quite empowering because you're actually connected to something that's been going on for generations and generations, like before you, you know? So I think when you can relate something like that, such as like cultural burns and fire and how they used it to protect country and how to heal country, it kind of took away the trauma from me being burnt. And now I kind of connect the thought of fire with that rather than the fire and me being burnt. So that was really powerful to go back to country. But it calls me all the time. We say country's calling you when you think of it. Like when you think of that place, it's like country's calling you. It's telling you that it's still there, and it's just reminding you that it's there if you need it. And obviously Brisbane's quite a while away to get there. But I think being realistic, it'd be nice to go back, you know, a couple of times a year if I can, and bring my daughter. Because me growing up, I never got that opportunity. So for me, that's something that I want to do each year, is just bring my daughter back there and learn with her. So yeah, very, very powerful stuff. And it's like, you know, I was one of the first people in maybe 4 generations to go back to country. Like we've been back to Brisbane, but not specifically to like where our great grandparents were born. So yeah, and that's where we've done the stuff with JD Sports. That was all filmed at a place where, quite close to where my nana's great grandmother was born. So
oh wow,
yeah, so there's like a lot of connection to there through that JD Sports project as well.
Some of the photos and videos you've put up of that country, unbelievable. Like, I don't think you know, city slickers like myself, like I've done a little bit of traveling, you know, I went across the Simpson and stuff like that, but you know, I was a young dumb kid. And you know, it's a place that I'd love to visit with you one day, just so I can actually learn a bit more about it. Because one thing I've always felt super blessed with was just how much you guys taught me through First Nations Jiu-Jitsu, and to be able to go and see your country would be unreal, you know. And I know we've talked about doing some trips with Jack, and you know, Trials was going to take us up to where he's from and stuff like that. I feel like that sort of stuff, you know, I remember doing Australia studies at school and it was shit house. Like, I'm pretty sure I failed it, man, because like it was all just about convicts and stuff, and it's not what we should be learning about.
Yeah, I think the education system's a whole thing to talk about, because even when I was younger, like, you get taught certain things in school, and I'd go home and I'd like talk to my family and they're like, no, that's not true. And then like as a young kid, you're confused because you're like, the school's telling you one thing and then your family's telling you one thing, but it's obviously a lot better now. Like, it's way better now than it's ever been. But yeah, you know, but the thing with you is you make the effort to learn, bro. Like, I can say to you, you know, it's NAIDOC week in a few weeks, and then you're the type of person that will like look it up and see what it actually means. And I think there's a lot of people that want to learn, but they don't take, like I said, bro, if you want to do something, you'll do it. And there's a lot of people that will do that. And there's a lot of people that will act interested and want to learn, or say they want to learn. And then maybe they do, but they don't have the confidence to ask the questions. But I think there's a lot of things you can do in your own time. And it's just like, just by researching. I love history. So like learning about the history of this country is really interesting to me, and I learn a lot. Like, I don't know everything. Like, I still learn to this day, and I think all Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander people say to you that cultures is like continual learning. Like you don't just learn one thing and then you're done. Like, and I think that's with a lot of cultures too. But I'm just blessed to have known so many people from so many different Aboriginal nations that are on those learning journeys too. And like obviously Rulla's like another one. He's really I really enjoy talking to Rulla about that too, because we've all got our own journeys, and being artists, we relate on so many different levels and stuff. So yeah, so it's really cool to be able to have people around you that's on their own journey with that. But then it's also nice to have people like yourself who take the time to want to learn off your own back, instead of us having to educate all the time, because a lot of blackfellas get pulled in a lot of directions to educate a lot, and we don't mind doing it, but there does come a time where it does feel like we get burnt out too, you know. And we try to take care of ourselves the best we can, but it's a lot sometimes, you know. And it's just nice to have people around you that, even though you don't understand, you might never understand, but you understand that. And it's just, yeah, it's nice to have those conversations with you, bro. I never feel like it's a burden, you asking me questions, you know.
Oh, I feel like a dumb cunt with some of the questions that I ask, but you know, it's just it's stuff that I want to learn, and whether it's you I'm asking, trials or rollers, I'm always like, man, I'm sorry if this is a dumb question, but is this all right? Is this the right way to talk about it? Because you know, like we were saying with some of the education, we don't, you know, growing up, it was not something that was often talked about. So, you know, for me to be able to ask you guys and get the right information, or get passed on, you know, like even I've had just chats on the phone with Jack and stuff like that about certain things. It's, yeah, very nice to be able to get the right information from the people that we should be asking, you know.
Yeah, and that's the thing, bro. We're learning too. Like any of us, like elders, you know, elders, a good elder will. A good elder, like I believe that there's a lot of elders I know that you ask them questions, or sometimes you ask them stuff and they feel like challenged by it. Like I know when I was younger, I would ask my mum questions and she might have felt a bit insecure because she didn't know. So she used to like push back on me asking questions because she didn't want to look like she was silly, you know. She didn't want to look like she didn't know. And that's like, but she knows a lot because she's taken the steps to learn more now, which is great. And then there's elders, like a good elder will take responsibility. If they don't know something, they'll try to help you learn it for the sake of everyone, you know. So there are some good people out there doing a lot of great work in education, and yeah, there's a lot of people now that's like, we're not just football players and boxers and sports people. There's people that are doctors and nurses and dentists and all sorts of people now, you know, scientists. It's amazing. I think that's a good thing about social media. Obviously, it can be quite hard to be on there and compare yourself to other artists a lot, but you do get to connect with a lot of people doing a lot of great things too. And yeah, I try to connect with them if I feel like it's there's something I can bring to the table, or there's something you know, worthwhile me trying to connect to them. If they're saying worthwhile me, you know, reaching out to them to connect with them for, I'll definitely do that. And I've met like other tattoo artists that are Aboriginal now, and just even other artists. I think it's one of those things that social media can be. It can be a great thing or it can be a negative thing, depends how you use it. And yeah.
How are we going for?
Probably about
50 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, classic.
I've been overlapping.
Ah, classic.
So I can stop you, sorry.
No, you're good. All right, cool. Well, I might just finish up with those last two, bro.
Yeah, you're right. Is that all right?
No, dude. Yeah, no,
okay,
this is
you're
really
right,
fucking unreal. What inspires you and keeps you going?
Oh man, it's hard, eh? Like to say what, like obviously, I think a lot of things inspire me. Like I think jumping from practice to practice, I got people that inspire me that are still, you know, painting trains, stuff like that. Like I get super inspired by that. But also people that are doing photography, I get inspired by just seeing my daughter. Like my daughter's been drawing a lot with my mum and with my mum at home a lot, and that's just like really pushes me to continue to want to, yeah, you know, create a good life for myself from making art, because it's such a blessing to be able to live off something that you're passionate about and that you've crafted for such a long time. But I also get very inspired by going back to country, and then I also get inspired by being around people from other communities, not even just Aboriginal community. Like I get inspired by being around the gym. I get inspired by a lot of things, like music, and I don't know. It's just I think I've got a good sense of letting things like come to me, let inspiration come to me. And I find that when it's not, it's because I'm doing too much. Like sometimes I just need to like settle back down, get back to my routine, and then if I'm in the right place, those things will come to me. Because if there's too many distractions, it's hard for that, it's hard for those gifts or those ideas to come to me if I'm panicking about stuff or I'm stressing out. So I think by running gives me the time to just reset, and training is obviously good because once you finish training, I feel so amazing on the drives home from M16 driving all the way back to Salisbury. It's like I got a lot of time to reflect, but I think when I'm doing too much, I find it hard to find inspiration. But when I just settle in and relax and just give myself a bit of time, it just comes to me quite naturally.
I mean, I was convinced you couldn't say no to things, like you're one of the busiest men that I've ever come across with everything you do, and the amount of projects I've seen you do over the years, and not just small ones either, like giant ones, and the pace you can do it at, and still, like the quality. I remember the rashies that you did for First Nations. It was like, you're like, oh, these are, I think we talked about it, we got in touch with Browse, and then I reckon maybe the next night you came into the gym and you had like 5 or 6 drawings, and you're like, I'm thinking about doing this and that, and I was like, man, this guy's a machine, eh? And you were doing other stuff while you were doing that as well, so it's a credit to you, man.
I can't sleep, eh? Like I find it really hard I'm really creative at night, and something I really struggle with is like, I know getting up in the morning, going to the gym and training early is like really, really good for me, but in other ways I don't know, there's times where I'm like, if I'm running a marathon, I'm locked into like training early, getting it done, into that, and I might not be as creative. I'm still creative, but then there's other times where I'm up to like, I'll be like 11 at night, I'm winding down, this thought will come to my mind, I'm like up on my iPad or just online researching stuff till like 3 in the morning, get up at 6 or 7, go to work, whatever, and I just know for the next few weeks I'm going to be up late because I'm working on this thing. So routine for me has been very hard to have a routine. Like being creative is a challenge, and I do feel better when I'm getting up early and I'm running, but I think I'm learning to not be so hard on myself transitioning from one to the other, you know what I mean? Because as an artist, we're quite hard on ourselves sometimes. I'm quite hard on myself.
And ADHD brothers, we hyper focus and get distracted quite easily.
I do my best work if you tell me something's due in like 2 hours.
Yeah. or if someone says you can't do it.
Yeah, that's another thing.
Yeah. You've overcome so many challenges, whether that's the burn and with how much you do bring on onto your plate. Have you got any advice on how to tackle getting over the challenges?
Yeah, there's I think everyone's like, someone said, like, you've had they say, oh, you've had a pretty hard life, or you've had a lot of hard things happen in your life, and I'm a big believer in that. Everyone goes through things and it's their own hard, like my hard's my own. The hardest thing for me is the hardest thing for me, and the hardest thing for you has been the hardest thing for you. And it's also very hard not to be hard on yourself in those times, right? And so I think when it comes to challenges, being around good people who, will let you kind of vent things out and stuff and let you kind of like get things out of your mind, because I think it's really important to like not hold all that in. But also having people around you that kind of tell you like when it's time to like go again and get your ass into gear, and don't sit around and don't sit around and complain too much. Like, get moving. I think I'm a big believer in like inaction, not taking action. Like, some of the most stressed out times I am is when I feel like I'm not deciding anything. Like, I've got all these amazing opportunities, but I'm not picking one and going with it. And that's when I feel most anxious and like real. My mental health's really bad. I'm probably more challenged by that than I am about things that happen in my life, like being burnt. You just go through those things, but then I'm probably more challenged by the fact that I'm an artist. I've got 10 different things 10 different practices I can go down, and I don't know which one, and that's kind of really hard for me. So I try not to stay in that position for too long, and I just think life's too short to be hard on yourself for too long. You still have to beat yourself up for a bit, but I try to be that person, especially with running. I share this with a lot of people with running, because when people run, they've got high expectations of themselves, and when they don't achieve it, they get real hard, they get real down on themselves. And I say to themselves, for every negative thing you say to yourself when you're running, you got to pump yourself up. Like, I always say to myself, like, how am I going to do this marathon? Like, before the Goldie this year, I thought I was doing a half marathon, and then 4 weeks out I got told I was doing the full, and everyone's like, nah, how are you going to do that, whatever. And in my mind I started beating myself up, saying, how can you do that? And then the other part of my mind's like, nah, you're going to fucking do this, and you're going to do it by looking after yourself. You're going to go to bed on time, you're going to, you know what I mean? So like, as much as I was telling myself you can't do it, I started telling myself that I could do it. So I think it's like just being aware of where your mind is, because your mind does want to drag you towards the negative side because it's trying to keep you safe. So for me, that's one thing that I do is, whenever I'm talking bad to myself, I try to also talk to myself as if I was someone. I talk to myself as if I was trying to talk to someone else I'm trying to help.
Yeah.
And that's been really, really, it's helped me a lot doing that. Yeah.
Oh, killer.
Up, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that was, I knew this one would be fucking special, bro.
There's a few things in there, bro. Cut out what you want, but it's just
I don't think there's anything to cut out, eh? That was fucking next level, bro.
Nah, you're right, bro. I appreciate you just like, yeah, wanting to learn and stuff, you know. I'm like that, bro. I'm happy to share, you know, like I'm happy to share, but I think part of me, because when I was, like, we could probably talk forever, but it's one of those things, like when I was younger, I'd get a job or I'd do something and it'd be massive, and I used to like, I would think I'm like fucking, I would think I'm so unreal. I think I'm the best at it, you know, I'm so good, like I'm set. And then you go back to work and you're back at this job where you don't, maybe sometimes you don't want to be. And I've just learned to like, yeah, as much as I celebrate the stuff, I don't let it kind of bring me to a place where I'm not, what's the word? Like, I don't want to live in like La La Land, you know? I don't want to live in this fairyland and build myself up to be this person who's should be celebrated and I'm so good and all this shit. It's like, yeah, it's good to celebrate nice things that you do, but also that's why I try to do a lot of community stuff and also just train in the gym and support other people, because it's not all about me, and I don't think it's really nice to, I don't like the idea of living in my own head where it's all about me all the time. And yeah, so like to be able to, I'm happy to share stuff, but I like, you know what I'm like, bro, I really struggle with promoting it off my own back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we'll probably have heaps more talks, bro, anyway.
Fucking oath, bro.